Karen had always dreaded cleaning her daughter Lila's room, and not just because it was filled with the usual mess of toys and crayons. No, it was because of the dolls, dozens of them, each with big wide eyes that never seemed to blink. They lined the shelves, the dresser, even he sat at a tiny tea table in the corner. That Saturday, she braced herself, armed with a duster and a garbage bag, determined to finally clear out what she could, she thought. She'd spent so long avoiding this room, but she couldn't shake the feeling it was creeping back into her dreams. The door creaked open, and the sight of them all staring back at her made her shiver. Some dolls had sweet, innocent faces. Others, especially the older ones, looked worn, with chipped paint on their lips and cheeks. She started on the dresser, giving each doll a once-over with the duster, one by one. Halfway through, a whisper seemed to echo in the room. "Mummy?" Karen's heart nearly stopped. She turned quickly, scanning the room, but there was only silence and those eyes fixed on her. She shook her head, laughing at herself. "Just the wind," she muttered, though there was no open window. Determined to finish, she turned to the tea table. The dolls around it sat stiff and still, frozen mid-pose, as though interrupted mid-conversation. Karen reached down to dust one doll, but her hand froze as it slowly tipped its head towards her, only slightly, but enough to see. She stumbled back, her heart pounding. Just my imagination. She brushed it off, then heard it again, a faint giggle coming from somewhere. A giggle, soft but unmistakable, like a child hiding and waiting to be found. Karen clenched her duster and called out, "Lila, is that you?" But she knew Lila was downstairs watching TV. The room felt colder now. Goosebumps prickled up her arms, and a strange feeling crept over her that maybe she wasn't alone in the room. She focused back on the dolls, thinking of how Lila adored them. Just toys, she reminded herself. Just toys. One of the dolls on the top shelf, a porcelain doll in a lavender dress, seemed to be grinning. She didn't remember it looking so happy. She reached up, hesitating, then tapped its face with her duster. That's when the doll's head snapped to the side with a loud crack. Karen jumped back with a yelp, her heart pounding. But then she saw it was just loose, a crack in the neck. Shakily, she placed it on a different shelf away from the others. As she turned back, she felt something graze her ankle. She yelped and looked down, but there was nothing. Only silence and those endless staring eyes. A shiver went through her, and she glanced over at the tea table. One doll seemed to be slouched, leaning forward a bit more than before, like it was trying to get a better look at her. Ridiculous, she thought, stepping closer, but every fiber in her body screamed to get out of that room. As she reached out to straighten the doll, she heard it. A scratchy little whisper, soft but unmistakable. "Mommy." Karen froze. She looked around, expecting to see her daughter peeking around the corner, but the door was closed. The voice had come from right in front of her. And then the closet door flew open, banging against the wall. She spun around, wide-eyed, staring into the dark closet, but there was nothing inside, just boxes and a few clothes. She took a deep breath, her hand over her chest, forcing herself to calm down. "Just the wind," she whispered, even though she knew that wasn't true. Turning back to the room, she realized the dolls had shifted. She was sure they had been facing her, but now they all seemed to look slightly to the side, as if watching something behind her. Her pulse quickened. She slowly turned around, dreading what she might see, but the room was empty. She glanced back at the dolls, and something caught her eye. One of the dolls, the one with the cracked head in the lavender dress, had moved. It was now on the edge of the shelf, leaning forward like it was about to fall in or jump. Karen couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed the doll, intending to throw it out, when it let out a loud, a cruel, high-pitched laugh that echoed around the room. She dropped it, backing up, her back hitting the door. The doll was on the floor, but its head was twisted up, eyes staring directly at her, mouth open in a frozen smile. The voice came again, but this time she knew it wasn't from her daughter. The dolls, every single one, were now turned to face her. The lights flickered, and in that brief flash of darkness, Karen could have sworn she saw something in the corner. A shadowy figure, small but twisted, like a child's silhouette, hunched and staring. She couldn't breathe. Her eyes darted around the room, and in the darkness the dolls' eyes seemed to glint, their faces twisted into different expressions, some smiling, others frowning, a few with mouths open as if mid-scream. The lights flickered back on, and she bolted for the door, hand fumbling for the handle. She heard a scraping noise behind her, like tiny footsteps, rushing faster and faster toward her. With a final burst of strength, she yanked the door open and ran out, slamming it behind her. She collapsed in the hallway, panting, staring at the closed door as if it might burst open any second. She heard a soft giggle from inside the room, just one, as if a doll was chuckling to itself, satisfied. And then, silence. Karen never went back into that room again. And as for the dolls, Lila didn't seem to notice when they disappeared. But sometimes, late at night, Karen would swear she heard soft, tiny footsteps from the other side of her daughter's bedroom door.